Do you want to see what the Oath Rod can do? Because the rock's going to show you what the Oath Rod can do.
Good God. I'm not editing that out.
And our symbol is the
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
oh my god. Not the Fang of Tarvalon, the Tear of Tarvalon.
The flame of Tarvalon.
The Flame. Oh my god, where is my brain today? Okay. The Flame of Tarvalon.
Yeah, chapter 30. What the Oath Rod can do. Flame of Tarvalon for what should be blisteringly obvious reasons.
Because I assume it's from when she says the Oath Rod can unbind as well as bind.
Yeah.
Right, that's the direct quote.
Yeah.
But it's also about the way it kills people, the way, like, everything about how it creates the Aes Sedai agelessness, all of that is brought up in this chapter.
Yeah, and also that it defines Aes Sedai, that it is the thing that sets Aes Sedai apart from other channelers and defines them as being a special order and all of that. Like, the Oath Rod can do a lot, is the answer to what the Oath Rod can do. The answer is a lot.
And or bind criminals, which is apparently what it was for.
I mean, the Aes Sedai are all witches, which is basically criminals, right? By definition.
Success, according to the White Cloaks.
Yay! White Cloak logic. It's great. Everything's fine.
I mean, oh man, you got to think about like how much to be a channeler you end up bound, right? Because you're either bound by the Oath Rod, or if you're sea folk, you're bound very closely by the fact that you have to follow behind somebody, and if they rise and fall, you rise and fall, right? I guess the wise ones are probably the least bound, that I'm thinking.
Ch30 binds all Aiel tightly. It's not more tightly for wise ones necessarily, but it's Aiel culture, so I don't know. It's having god powers is going to be a problem for people, generally.
And then, of course, the Shan Chan. Just a little bit of binding going on there.
Skosh.
Skosh.
The sun sat on the horizon, perfectly silhouetting the white tower in the distance, but the cold of the previous night seemed to be deepening, and dark gray clouds marching across the sky threatened a snowfall. Winter was diminishing, yet it had clung past when spring should have begun, loosening its hold fitfully. The noises of morning penetrated Egwene's tent, isolated as it was from everything around it. The camp seemed to vibrate. Laborers would be bringing in water from the wells, and extra measures of firewood and charcoal in carts. Several women would be fetching sisters' breakfasts, and novices in the second sitting scurrying to theirs, and those in the first and third to classes. It was a momentous day, though none of them knew it. Likely, today would see an end to the spurious negotiations that were going on in Darine, at a table under a pavilion at the foot of the bridge to Tarvalon. Spurious on both sides. Elida's raiders continued to strike with impunity on the other side of the river. In any case, today would be the last meeting for some time. I'll cut it there.
Yeah, so it's the big day, right? Because this is going to be the last meeting, because in the morning they're going to wake up to, she thinks, the chains turn to Quendiar.
Yeah, she thinks that she's going to be able to, tomorrow morning, announce that the siege has taken a serious turn in their favor.
And that's the plan, right? That's this whole thing they've been sort of dancing around, is she's going to send, well, it was going to be what, Kyrian,
Stang, and Leanna.
To go basically turn the north, two chains, right? There's one on the North Harbor, one on the South Harbor. They both need to be turned to Quendiar. Those are the two best at changing things, the fastest, besides herself, of course.
Yep.
And so that is the plan. Obviously, Winter's hanging on because we had that late arrival, and who the heck knows what's going on with the weather. I think it's a little bit of Rand's mood, though. I think is sort of what he is in sort of the depths of his Winter's heart.
Well, we're coming out of that now, and he isn't. The season is starting to let go a little bit and move towards spring, whereas Rand is still very much on his downward plummet.
Well, I would say part of the reason that it's hanging on longer than it's supposed to is because they're linked, right? That Rand is sort of pulling it down and preventing the spring from coming.
Yeah, the axial tilt is happening, but there's something just off. Yeah.
Then Chesa is the new Linny, I think, is how I would categorize her. Just like an actually good servant who has like fun things to say and works well with her boss.
Except that Chase's not problematic, and Linny is like basically the entire problem.
Well, Linny's just traditional. We'll put it that way.
As I said, the entire problem. Tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
I'm not correcting you. Just agreeing in a different way.
Yeah. But yeah, it is funny what she says of like, it all feeds the belly. Like, just eat your bugs. It's protein. It's fine.
Even if it goes crunch, it's not poisonous. You can digest them fine. You may find it disgusting, but bugs are healthy.
Yeah, which is, not the most untrue thing in the world. I mean, I don't feel like weevils eating your grain is a health improvement, Obviously, like, entropy, conservation of energy means that you're getting less value from the food. But, like,
sure,
broadly, insects are a really valuable source of protein that can be part of a well-rounded diet. I don't want them crunching in my bread.
And you could argue that it's a more balanced bread, right? That instead of just starches, you're getting starches and protein. So even though you've lost some of the nutritional value, you've gained perhaps something that's more valuable. I'm sure it's disgusting though, and there's a reason we don't eat weevils in our bread. So yeah,
it's like there are some moldy milks that I love, and there are some that should be thrown the fuck out. Like sometimes milk that's molded is a good thing, and sometimes it's not, and sometimes bugs are very much not what you want. You just want bread.
Cheese.
I love cheese.
Right? I always wondered this weird line Chesa had between sorting laundry is stepping over the line, but mending or darning. It's like as long as she's sitting in one place, she can do something with her hands. She can fidget, but she can't get up and walk around and move things.
That makes sense. Yeah. It's silly, but it does make sense.
Propriety and tradition.
Yeah. And we get the line here that Halima had left much earlier this morning. I'm wondering if that was specifically to go out and kill Chiron, because it sounds like Chiron was killed in the night, and so I'm trying to reconcile night and early morning. But we also know that she was killed with sighting, so like my question is just, was Halima going out again after having come back from killing Chiron? Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, she's sneaking in and out. She might. So there's some suggestion, because Chiron was friends with, was a close friend of Cabrina.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's possible that Chiron was being a little too probing, right? Because she's like, wait, because Cabrina, remember, was Halima's cover story.
Yeah, because that was my other question was, why would Halima know to take out Chiron? That plan about the Quendiar is super tightly held, and I don't think anyone who knew it knew Dark Friend stuff. Yeah, that makes more sense that it's coincidence.
It's coincidence. She was taking her out because she was questioning her cover story.
And it just so happened that she was a critical part. So Halima foiled a plan without even knowing it. Like, what? That's one of those broken clock is right twice a day kind of moments. Like, this is one of the most inept Forsaken, but like managed to actually almost completely fuck this plan.
So the question is, who betrayed Egwene? Do you know?
I honestly didn't think that there was a betrayal in it.
So someone obviously told them to expect the chains, right? How else was Egwene captured?
Well, I thought that they were just out there doing their normal watch thing.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Right, because there's a line, hey, we got more than we bargained for.
Oh.
Right? So they captured somebody. So I think I found the answer in the companion.
Oh, okay.
So we have an official answer.
So if there is a betrayer, who do I think it would have been? Well, I don't think it's Nicola, because she doesn't know anything to betray. Are there dark friends who know about what's happening at all? Are there dark friends aware of this? Is Shiriam aware of this plan?
Shiriam is a contender for certain.
Okay. So yeah, there's a couple of dark friends that might be in the inner circle then. All right, tell me. Who is it?
Nicola.
Well, how would she know? What does she know to betray?
Well, remember, she was part of the lessons about turning things into Quendiar. So my guess is she somehow figured out from there what they were going to turn into Quendiar and then betrayed that.
That sounds very tenuous. She shows up claiming that the Aes Sedai on the other side of the river have figured out how to turn the entire harbor chain into Quendiar. I mean, that just sounds like more nonsense. I'm amazed that the Aes Sedai would take her seriously. Maybe I guess she was able to demonstrate the weave. That would have been pretty solid proof. Huh. What a conniving little bitch. You know, honestly, I think she would have ended up Black Aja the way Shiriam ended up Black Aja if she hadn't died. I think Nicola would have just done the ambition thing until one day she was Black Aja and basically okay with it. Because politics, like, she just has no moral compass at all.
Well, no, she has a moral compass, but she wants power and she's willing to do anything to get it. So I think the second she was given that bargain, she would take it. Right? Anything for more power, basically, was Nicola's.
Yeah, there were no lines for her.
No, I think it's just once she became Aes Sedai, she would have fallen.
Yeah, very easily. She would have been marked out and vultured on really hard. Like, the Black Aja would have been waiting the day she took up her shawl to be like, so, have you heard of more power? And, all right, well, Nicola, great. You're awesome.
And so, besides the official answer we get that it was Nicola, the Wheel of Time FAQ has a great article basically summarizing all the people who could have betrayed her and what their motivations would have been. And so it's got Nicola, Shiriam, Lelaine, Ramonda, Faelaine, Halima, and then some random sitter. So they've got 8 possible contenders with about a paragraph on each one. So I might read those as we get to them.
Okay. Cool.
I think I'll read Nicola's to start with, since we know she's confirmed to be the person. And then as we get to them, I might read their shorter paragraphs. Nicola, she certainly seems to have been set up to look like she did it. Besides being a malcontent and a known blackmailer, she ran away from the rebel camp 3 or 4 days before Egwene's capture, which would have given her plenty of time to get to the tower and spill the beans about the plan. As to how she would know about the plan, Nicola has a history of ferreting out information she has no business knowing. It's also possible she learned about it through a foretelling.
No, she does always have Arena there to help her process.
Then there's a lot of stuff about her running away. You know, she may have guessed what her Amyrlin in prison prophecy meant and simply decided to pick the winning side before it all went down. She could have gone to the tower to help Egwene, unlikely as that may seem.
I don't think that.
So, yeah, I think she just basically figured it out, either through the fact that she was doing the Quendiar and also the fact that she spies on everybody and blackmails everybody and is constantly trying to ferret out secrets, and just said, hey, and we know later by canon she ran away to the tower to learn faster. She felt she wasn't being taught fast enough, and so it was like, well, I'm going to go to the tower and I'm going to take this information with me because that's going to get me accepted and will get me special favors because I'm a spy and a blackmailer, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So Nisal, one of the people that Nicola blackmailed, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the other reason why I think it's Nicola, because they bring up the Aes Sedai who she did blackmail repeatedly throughout this chapter. And her warder is Saren, which is another freaking S name. At least it's a warder, not another Aes Sedai, but wow.
Yeah.
And so this is where we get the information that Kyrene is dead. She was killed using Sidene, which we of course know means it was Halima. And that means that Egwene has to rely on Bodwin, who's the next best.
Bodwin Cawthon.
Bringing it right back around to the 2 rivers.
Yeah, not just a friend of hers, but Mat's sister.
I would have loved to get a POV of Bodwin.
Oh God, just one POV to represent what it was like to be a protected novice during the last battle, watching it all go down, knowing that your brother is out there and that your childhood friends are out there, and just...
And also what she thinks of Mat, right? Because everybody thinks of Mat in different ways. What does his sister think of him? I think that would be a really cool POV.
Because I'm sure that even though he thought that they all fucking hated him and wanted to get him in trouble, I bet she hero worshipped the fuck out of him in her own POV. You know? I bet she thought he was the coolest big brother and so on and so forth. And God, just one POV from Bode. God, that would have been awesome.
Just something about how him leaving the 2 rivers inspired her to also go, and how much she wants to be like him and be a hero, and how stuck up Egwene is.
Yeah, totally. And just, Yeah. And I mean, and I do feel bad for her getting swooped into this mission and then out of it. You know, because she is totally unqualified to take the role. Like, it's good that Egwene pulls her out, but it sucks that she gets up to the point of almost getting sent out. Like, she knows what she's supposed to do. She's psyching herself up, and then Egwene's like, nah, rug out from under your feet. Not for you.
But didn't it still take her like hours to do a cup or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a terrible call to have her in the lineup.
Yeah. Just, it's not fast enough.
No. Leanna goes too slow. They managed to figure out where she is because of how slow she's going, despite the fact that she wards herself, you know, like.
And she gets like halfway through, right?
Yeah. Bode would have gotten like a link of the chain. It would have made no difference at all.
Niso is investing Anaya's death. Do you remember, was Anaya killed also by Halima?
Solid flows of air were woven around her and her warder's head, so they suffocated.
So these are just, you know, she's supposed to be looking into the Halima killings.
Basically. Putting her deeper into the line of fire, more likely to get killed by Halima.
Right. and they're stuck because they don't know that it's a woman using the male side. They're looking for a male channeler.
Right. They're assuming like Logain or a horse handler, like a maid is not it.
Right. And there's a couple of things where they talk about these murders, putting the nail in the coffin for the negotiations with the Black Tower, because they just assume it's a Black Tower Ashaman sneaking in among them, killing women.
Right.
Because they can't think of anybody else, Forsaken, who has the ability.
Yeah. Yeah, which, I mean, it's fair. It's like you have to make a very large leap to get to the right answer on this one. So they talk about the mood in the camp, and Egwene thinks about how she has to maintain her routine because that's part of how being a leader works, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of talking about sort of what's going on in the tower, the tower in exile, however you want to call it, the camp. How they're organizing the novices into groups, and they call each other cousins, which I think is really a setup to remind us how when we find out that Nicola's cousins covered for her. I love the detail that they don't cover for her because they like her and they're doing her a favor. They cover for her because they hate her so much they want her to get away so they don't have to deal with her ever again.
You know you suck when.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, I'll take punishment to make sure she never gets caught. I hope she gets the hell out of here.
Yeah. There's also this interesting flashback about the time spotted fever had struck Emmons Field, which was just a really interesting little interlude where like he gives you this like, it's not quite like a PTSD flashback, but it's kind of a PTSD flashback because like the smell of brandy and handkerchiefs and fear is all associated for her, and she's like, the fear in the camp now is making me feel like I'm smelling brandy again. Like it's the same energy, even though there isn't literally brandy in the scene.
Do we ever hear Nynaeve talk about the spotted fever?
I don't think she ever reflects on treating an infection or a pandemic or anything like that. And this story says that it was Doral Baron who was the wisdom. So Nynaeve would have been early in her apprenticeship at best.
Okay.
But I don't recall her ever talking about the whole village getting sick. I feel like she only ever talks about individuals getting sick.
Because I feel like they would have fewer deaths if Nynaeve was there healing people.
Sure.
With, herbs, right? Because she would have gotten pissed and made sure a lot of these people didn't actually die.
Maybe her parents died in that, and that's part of why she went to the wisdom to get training. Maybe that was like part of why she became an apprentice, and thus she wasn't there at the time because she hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, right, don't they reference the spotted fever in the show during the accepted test?
They do. In her accepted test, they say the fever came back. They say it came back worse or something like that. So that would be referencing this time that it was around when Egwene was a little kid. Yeah. The showrunners clearly have no idea what the source material is.
And I think it's so funny, not funny, but like to look at this story and to have read this many times and then to get to the pandemic, right? and sort of be coming out the other side of it when there's a lot of things that still remind me of fear from the pandemic, right? That smell of the mask.
Yeah, the hand sanitizer.
The hand sanitizer, right? Yeah, there's a certain feeling that we had where it was like especially in the beginning when you were like washing packages, yeah.
And like everyone was wearing like rubber gloves and single-use gloves, and there was lots of sounds and smells that were suddenly everywhere that weren't normal. That like now I can only associate with like early days pandemic. We don't know anything about what's happening, and that was fast. It was like we moved through that phase fairly quickly, but like strike. I mean, she's talking about a month-long thing here, so yeah, very similar. Actually, hers is shorter. God, time means nothing once the pandemic starts.
Right, isn't it still 2020?
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna die on my deathbed. I'm gonna be like, wait, it's only been a year since 2020. What's going on?
Right. Oh my God. Spatwinkle says I was reading Stephen King's The Stand when the pandemic hit. That's fucked up.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, perfect.
I mean, I personally love The Stand. It's one of the only Stephen King books that I like. But that would be a fucked up pairing to be reading that book during the pandemic happening. And I mean, yeah, masking is definitely still an extremely good idea, and way more people need to be doing it. Like, the smell of the mask is still a part of the pandemic experience because the pandemic's still actually happening. But yeah, there's a lot of the intensity of all the new things at the beginning of the pandemic is different than the more automatic, reflexive stuff now. Though, I mean, forever and ever, face masks are going to make me think of the pandemic, not healthcare settings or whatever else. It's always going to be the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. And not, and I'm pro people wearing face masks. I was so happy when I didn't get sick for 2 years at all. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, because I was wearing a face mask everywhere, right? Like, I still feel like I should wear one in the airport because I get sick every time I travel. So yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to them, but they still will always represent that time of fear.
Yeah, that early days when it was like, we don't know what we're dealing with. Yeah. And Egwene, we're following her chair. Egwene automatically catches the chair. All she has to do is follow routine. Like, pairing that chair with her power, where she's like, I know what's wrong with it. I know how to fix it. All I have to do is just keep doing this routine, and I'm about to make it all better. And like, the chair really features heavily in this chapter, like it does in every chapter. It's never not mentioned for a purpose.
Her base of power is very unsteady, and I love the way it like almost goes out when Shuriam walks in. Yeah.
But yeah, first she sits down and gets a bunch of visitors. We have a whole bunch of Aes Sedai moving in and out and sniffing at each other, and it's a lot of Aes Sedai drama.
Yeah, I mean, basically it comes down to the power struggle between Ramonda and Lelaine, right? So you get the people come in, say, hey, can Ramonda meet with you? And she says yes. She meets with her, and then the person comes in and says, hey, can Lelaine meet with you? She says yes. Then Lelaine comes in.
We have the whole thing with Theodrin, where Theodrin's bringing her a secret note, but she's getting snubbed, and Egwene has to enforce her authority, which also enforces her reputation as a really hard-bitten Aes Sedai. And we get the note from Theodrin, which basically has nothing of import, but does represent, Theodrin continuing to be loyal to Egwene. And there's this thing about a rumor that's got the Yellow Sisters buzzing to do with Nynaeve, and we never get an answer in this chapter for what that is, and I couldn't recall what it might be.
I think it's her healing Logain. I think it's healing Stilling.
But that happened with the Saladar Aes Sedai. Why would it be a rumor coming back to them?
Well, it's just some tale has the Yellow Sisters buzzing, right? The tale could come from anywhere. Wherever Nynaeve is.
Or maybe it's from Logain showing up as a champ. No, he's not showing up anywhere. He's all sneaky with Rand right now.
I heard them mention Nynaeve, not as if she were in Cairhien, but as if the rumor was somehow connected to her.
But why would Yellow Sisters be surprised at that news? Because they would know that Nynaeve healed Logain, right? Like, it happened in the Saladar camp. Like, why would Aes Sedai reporting to Theodrin be surprised by that?
Oh, Or maybe it's Dahmer Flynn's healing of the Aes Sedai. And that's how it's connected to Nynaeve, because she also healed Stilling. But now you've got a man doing it.
That could make sense, because Nynaeve's going to be mentioned as a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
I could
she did it already.
Because I don't think this ever comes up as being super relevant. So that would fit, because Stilling being healed by a man is a story that would have the yellows buzzing, for sure.
Right. And it would be connected to Nynaeve because she's already healed Stilling once. So, now a man has done it. And also maybe the connection that, like, when a man does it, they get the full power back.
So Swan comes in and takes the news about changing the plan to include Bode calmly, because, as the book says, she had weathered storms and managed to recover from drowning, some might say. Today was only a little windy.
Not too bad.
Which I like that. I like that reminder of the vast gulf of difference between Egwene and Swan, even though Egwene is the leading partner in so many ways. Like, Swan still has the gravity of all her years of experience.
And she says something about no need until we know for sure about the boats. That's a tough sentence to read. So I think she's talking about whether or not they need Bodwin because they still are waiting to see if boats are going to show up.
I think it's telling Bodwin. Like, they know they're going to use her, but there's no point in looping her into the plan until they know exactly where and when the boats are going to land, I think. I mean, basically what you're saying, just subtly different.
So I was thinking those were the boats that they were planning on sinking. That she was like, we're not sure we're going to use the Quendiar plan because we're still waiting for Gareth Bryn to tell us whether or not he can get boats.
No, that's already been decided long since. I think it was just about where the boats were going to land, that we're going to take them over to the harbors.
Okay. That line did confuse me.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that we had an on-page discussion about how blocking the harbors with ships was not going to happen.
Right. That's what I thought too. Yeah, between Gareth Bryn and Egwene. Because he's just like, yeah, there's no chance of boats coming. Not now that the siege is going. No ship captain is going to sail his boat in here knowing we're going to want to sink it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
First, Faelane goes into hiding. Where is Faelane?
I was going to ask you that.
Okay. Well, then we need to do some research.
Because I thought maybe she was being held against her will away from Swan, I want to say. Lelaine, says something later about how, I guess I can let Faelane out now.
Okay. Yeah, in Knife of Dreams, Chapter 1, she tells Suan she uncovered Faelane's spying and kept her confined.
Yeah. So that's what this is.
But I think it's a good what Jordan's trying to do is give us a red herring for wait a minute, who betrayed Egwene?
Yes.
Because you go back to this chapter and he's giving you Nicola's gone missing, Halima's out on the prowl, Faelane's gone missing. Who could possibly betray Egwene? He doesn't want you to know the second you're done reading this chapter. He wants you to have to go back and read all the clues and read all the details and try and figure it out. And he wanted the argument, right? So I'll read the entry about Faelane. Faelane going MIA, together with her red sympathies and her general bad attitude, certainly throws some suspicion her way. On the other hand, her absence could also add to the case for Lelaine. Faelane was supposed to be watching the sitter. Her disappearance could indicate that Lelaine got her out of the way. Which is exactly what happened.
So those entries were written before Knife of Dreams came out?
Yes. This sort of speculation based on just this chapter.
Gotcha.
And also just the companion tells us as well. So this is before the companion.
And then, so it's first Faelane goes into hiding, and now Theodrine brings this to you instead of to me. And Egwene says, well, maybe that's because she wants to get caught because she thinks this is a bullshit argument. It sounds like that was the next entry on your list.
Theodrine? Yes. Theodrine, not much of a case for her, other than Egwene musing she might be getting intentionally careless about watching Ramonda. But then, who wouldn't hate that job?
Yeah. Fair.
And by the way, this article was written by Lee Butler, Drew Holton, and Jennifer Liang.
Oh, excellent.
Who, if you've been around the Dragon Con circles, you'll recognize most of those names.
I recognize those names, though I don't believe I've met any of them in any way, shape, or form.
Well, Leah Butler wrote the official Dragon Mount, the walkthrough. Basically, she did the written version of Watt Spoilers in short form. And Jennifer Liang, I know, runs Jordan Con and has been running it for a long time with help. So
I'm pretty sure I've seen her on a Dusty Wheel chat or something. Yeah. And then there's an interesting line. I don't suppose anyone will insist that they be tested for the shawl now. And I thought that was a very weird concession, that they're like, oh, well, if you get raised by decree, we're just going to not have you take that test, which seems like a really casual hand waving of something that's super critical.
But we're determining that the oath rod is what makes Aes Sedai. Taking the test, that's a formality, and the assumption is that maybe they've gone through enough, they've had enough troubles, enough problems that they don't need to take the official test.
Given what we see the official test to be like, I find that reasoning really hard to swallow.
Agreed. Like, I yeah.
Because that seems to be what they're presenting, and I'm like, I just don't buy that. That's ridiculous. You put these women through a deadly life or death psychological torture regime, and you want to say that a few weeks of being insulted by their peers is an equivalent to that? Like, I thought that you had to make sure Aes Sedai wouldn't break in the face of pressure when they went out into the world, and the tests are the only way to determine that, you know?
But at the same time, they have been Aes Sedai by decree of the Amyrlin seat. And so how can you force an Aes Sedai, someone who's been Aes Sedai, to go retake those tests? How can you be an Aes Sedai if you're going to have to prove it again?
I mean, I see the logic, but it's like these two Aes Sedai are never going to be like the others because they don't have that trauma. All the other Aes Sedai ever have this like specific trauma of learning the 100 Weaves and then nearly dying while performing them. These two are going to just not, but every Aes Sedai after them is. Like, they'll never be like the others if that's the case. Like, I don't have a good answer. I just find it weird that no one in the books is as upset as I am about it.
I have to wonder if maybe that's Jordan was planning on having them drop that part, right? That becoming an Aes Sedai from accepted is no more than swearing the oaths. That there's no more test.
I wouldn't mind that, honestly. I think torturing people that badly and giving them that much trauma is not necessary to make them well-rounded adults. But he doesn't give me a solid answer on Egwene getting rid of it, and Nynaeve then goes through it after.
Right,
and she was raised by decree, but she still goes through the test to solidify Egwene's authority. So I just, like, why do Feodor and Theodrin get off the hook so easy?
I'm guessing they're forced to go through it.
That would make the most sense. It just doesn't ever get discussed on page, but it does ultimately happen, like, a year or 3 down the line. Yeah. That would make me the most happy, that someone ultimately does get pissed off the way I'm pissed off and, like, fixes that in world.
After that, I got some name salad with previous Amyrlins.
Yeah.
I've looked them up. I could put them in time, but I didn't really see any reason to discuss them deeply.
Same. They're the previous Amyrlins. You know Swan's rants about these things. We reference Shine Chunla. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom.
Be like the good ones. Don't be like the bad ones.
Yeah. Be powerful. Don't be dumb. And then, yeah, Shiriam waltzes in and surprises Egwene and nearly drops her on the carpets. She needed to get a chair that did not try to fold every time she moved. She needed to get a keeper that wasn't a fucking dark friend.
Exactly. And, okay, let me read Shiriam's little bit. Shiriam, since she was revealed as a dark friend, she seemed like a very likely candidate. Maintaining the division between Aes Sedai factions was a key goal of the Shadow. So basically, like, she's a good candidate, but I don't think this was dark friendery. I think it was just normal betrayal, because the Shadow has Egwene where they want her.
Right. This is not according to the Shadow's plan.
No, I don't think Halima or Shiriam or any other dark friend has anything to do with her abduction, right? Specifically because of the way she tells nobody. They weren't trying to abduct Egwene. They were just trying to stop the taking of the harbor.
Right. Exactly. This wasn't a plan by Masana or anything. Masana is not unhappy. She works with it. But yeah, none of the Dark Friends had any desire to or capacity to make this happen.
Yeah. And it's not good for Halima, because she ends up basically she's like, well, I lost my charge. And then she ends up in Grendal's castle, which doesn't go well for her.
No.
But yeah, I mean, that's sort of the end of her story, right? The end of her influence is losing Egwene in this manner. She doesn't tell Shiriam everything, which is good, because Shiriam's a dyed-in-the-wool dark friend. And then we get the fact that Nicola is a runaway, and she sits and thinks and looks about that for a long time.
Yeah, we get some comments on how dates are written, which feels very old-timey and medieval, which is fun. We hear about how all of Nicola's cousins are going to get switched on the daily until she gets returned, and how that's probably going to Tiana's going to have to relent on that because Nicola's so far gone. And Egwene winces, thinking that a daily dose would be fierce. And it's like,
oh, foreshadowing.
Oof, she's going to be having
yeah.
3 switchings a day and not wincing at a one of them by the end of.
I missed that foreshadowing. That's a good catch.
Yeah, yeah.
So then she moves on to asking about her dream, right? She talked about the Shan invasion, and everyone's dismissing it because they're far away and they don't know gateways, which is just the dumbest fucking thing.
You know they have flying creatures.
Not to mention, all it takes is one person gatewaying out there getting captured, and then they can gateway back. And that can happen overnight. That could happen in one day.
Yeah, it's so foolish.
The lack of imagination among the Aes Sedai sometimes drives me up a fucking wall. Like, no, that can't possibly happen. That's the problem with the whites, right? Because their logic is fine, but they always start from false premises because they are stuck in the arrogance of the Aes Sedai, and they have to make assumptions in order to follow them with their logic. And when your assumptions are false, your conclusions are false. Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. Geigo. Instead of answering, Shuriam deflects to trying to get Egwene to play favorites with Nicola's cousins, because one of them is Egwene's best friend from childhood.
And so she's just trying to undermine Egwene's power there, basically trying to get her to do something that would not be good for her as the Amyrlin seat.
Make her dependent on Shuriam and weak in the eyes of the other sisters.
When Shuriam left, Egwene found herself wondering what had brought the woman in the first place. Surely, it could have just been to point out that Lorraine was going to be punished. Surely not, but she had said nothing else apart from answering Egwene's questions. I think, yeah, that's exactly why she showed up. She was just going to push her.
Yeah, she was just there to offer some chair weakening. You know, she walks in and the chair gets weakened. And what does she say? She says, you know what you should do? You should play favorites.
Yeah. You should weaken your base of power.
Yeah. You should forget that the distance between Amyrlin and Novice needs to be a certain size. You should forget that. It's very bad. And that's why the chair dropped, is because the chair knows. The chair knows. The chair's like Varen.
So she leaves. In comes Myrelle and Morvrin.
Yeah. She asks them about her dreams. She gets the same response.
Myrelle, remember, being the one who bonded Lan.
Yeah, and Morvrin is sitting on a crate in a way that is quote-unquote too light for her bulk. So there's Robert Jordan just being like, is it a red herring? Is it a red herring?
Oh,
is it a red
Jesus,
herring?
I missed that too.
Yeah. In spite of her
Wow.
bulk, she did it easily and gracefully. That's Morvrin.
I'm not sure how much that's a red herring anymore, as to he just kind of thinks that's a kind of person.
Yeah, it's calling it a red herring is giving him far too much credit. It's just lazy writing at this point.
Right, because with Lanfear it was fine, because it made sense, right?
And with Van and Dread, it's fun.
Right.
But here, it's just like, there's no reason for that. Oh, wow, the fat person's not really awkward. Whoa. So then we get a check-in with the talks down at the gate, or at the bridge towns. Bayonin is getting pushed out of center stage, even though she's the only one who maybe is operating, like, with actual knowledge of both sides. She's getting pushed out, and other sisters are taking over. But no one is willing to warn the tower about Egwene's dream. They're like, that's not going to help our spurious talks. So they don't. So Egwene's feeling very frustrated because she wants to warn them. And, you know, I guess that's why she gets captured, is because she really needs to warn the tower.
Right. That's her plan the whole time.
Religion. Fat person has good posture. More at 11. Yeah.
There's an interesting point here where Myrelle turns to her and says, Mother, I've been thinking about the day Shadar Logoth was destroyed. And then she's interrupted by Mygan coming in.
Mygan.
What do you think? I think Myrelle was going to say Lan, because she's bonded to Lan, right? And Lan was at Shadar Logoth. And we've wondered, like, why hasn't she told her about it? I think she was about to right there.
Oh, I was wondering I had no idea what she was going to say, but I like that she had put 2 and 2 together and decided she should bring that 4 to Egwene. Huh. I like that. I'll take it.
Now she gets interrupted and never gets a chance to. But I like the idea that because we've been like, why didn't she say something about Lan?
Yeah, maybe she's like, hey, so it occurred to me, maybe I should have said something about Lan.
And maybe she didn't really understand that it was a Shadow Logoth, and like she's like she'd have to put two and two together because like the power would be in a direction. I mean, you think it would be obvious the power's in that direction, lands in that direction, but maybe she didn't put those two things together
For whatever reason.
and is only later was like land probably was in the vicinity of Shadow Logoth.
Yeah, that's the charitable thing, is that she just missed the obvious. Because it was a long way away, so.
Right. Maybe she wasn't really feeling his bond.
Yeah, totally. I love how Mygan sweeps in and very directly says, I brought my own chair, yours are unsteady. I love that.
Oh my god, Jordan just pounding on that drum of like, yeah, the Amerlin seat is unsteady, there's no power, and Mygan has set up her own base of power.
Yeah. And then she does this thing where she's super harsh to Swan and is like, go fetch me tea and don't steal my honey, you silly child. While Egwene
I
is
remember
thinking,
you used to have a sweet tooth.
yeah, while Egwene is thinking about the fact that like she used to be one of Swan's strongest allies, and it's just like the pendulum really swung the other direction with her. Like her strongest ally became her strongest critic. Rumor had it that Swan had to beg to be accepted back into the Blue Aja, and that Mygan had been the most insistent on the begging. Like that is really punishing someone for betraying your trust as an ally. Like that is holding a grudge. Yeah, like in U.S. politics, like, or in any politics, I assume. Like that sounds like a political grudge.
Right.
I don't really do grudges. I have too short-term of memory loss issues, but like that sounds like a grudge. Next thing I've got is, yeah, Swan and Ragan return together, and we get a carefully coded message from Bryn.
And Ragan was one of the original Shinarans, right?
Yeah, he's like Great Hunt.
Great Hunt Shinaran. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Ragan and Uno, I think, spend a lot of time together dealing with Masema going nutso.
And he's got the same scar that Masema has, so it's easy to like get them confused because they talk about the guy with the white puckered scar on his cheek. And Reagan has that, and so does Masema, and that was always weird to me that he would give two people the same scar.
Well, maybe they were in the same fight getting hit at with the same weaponry and both took similar injuries. Lilligen will be thinking about show Mygan later when we get to the show episodes. Because, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Final episode comes out in
2 days.
What, 2 days?
2 days.
And we'll have episode 8. Been really enjoying the season.
Yeah,
I'm angry with it.
We're getting to it later. We're getting to it later.
But I love what I'm seeing. I just want more, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yes, we will be ranting about that for hours come probably next week or the week after.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, despite the stool's uneven legs, Ramonda managed to make it seem like a seat in the hall of the tower, or maybe a throne. She has so much more experience, she can handle even an unsteady seat that Egwene struggles with. Egwene also thinks about how she had been younger than Bode was now when she was sent out to hunt Black Aja sisters.
All of 2 years ago, right? Like,
yeah, she's so ancient now, and Bode is such a young child who must be protected. Like, I totally feel for Bode being like, no, I got this, because, like, I was super there for Egwene.
Right.
In Dragon Reborn, when she's like, yeah, I got this. I can go hunt Black Aja. This will be fine. Like, Bode has the same energy, and why should I deny her that, main character potential? But Egwene does, because she's an old woman now.
Just like Moraine.
Yeah.
I feel like that's her in Moraine's position, right? She's totally taken over as the Aes Sedai, the mature one, the one who has to make the hard decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me what this means. Lord Bryn sent me. He said to tell you that it seems the raiders may have crossed to this side of the river last night with Aes Sedai. Who are the raiders?
It's just coded to say that the boats are in place. It's like the ring has been placed in the bull's nose. I expect a pleasant journey to market. It's just the code words are put in an order to communicate a specific message.
Oh, okay. I missed that entirely. I thought that Elida had sent some raiders over, or some people over. Isn't Gawain?
Gawain is one of the raiders. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have always just taken that when it says her hands were quite steady, the boats were in place. In a few hours, the Yan would gather Bode, blah, blah, blah. I always figured that this was just a way for Bryn to tell her that everything was in place, even if she was in the middle of a meeting and didn't have the ability to, like, hear the message in private. And then, Swan immediately is like, oh, I gotta go shit myself senseless. Please excuse me. And that's to go, relay more information.
That went way over my head, but I think you're right. That's a coded message. That's how she knows the boats are in place. Okay.
Which it seems needlessly complicated to me. Couldn't you just know that the boats are going to be there? But whatever.
Well, they're expecting a spy, and they're right.
That's true. That's true. The Hall does know that this is going to happen tonight. They know that the chain plan is going to happen. So I guess the entire Hall knows. So the Dark has a billion chances to be informed of this and to be letting their Dark compatriots on the inside know.
But they don't know that Egwene's going to be there.
No, because Egwene herself doesn't know she's going to be there at this point in the chapter.
She says, Bode must do what needs doing.
Yeah. And so, let's see. Oh, yeah, Ramonda. So we're in our interview with Ramonda, and first she makes a cutting remark about ferrets, sending in ferrets into the tower to deal with Elida, which is referencing the propagandists that got sent in. Which she's not supposed to know about, but apparently she does. So
yeah, this is interesting. Ramonda seems to know a lot of Egwene's secrets and is throwing them in her face right here. I'm just wondering, how much...
Because she's got Faelane.
You think that was Ramonda? No, I thought that was Lelaine that got her.
Oh, shit, you're right. It is Ramonda. Oh, okay. Never mind. Thank you, editing. So I don't know how she figured that out.
Let me do a little research here.
Dunno. She's clever and crafty and figured it out somehow.
Yep. That's all I got.
But she moves on from that to the more important meat of the conversation, which is about what the Oath Rod can do. She's like, so about this whole kin situation, you want to involve the kin. That feels real sketch. Not super comfortable with all the implications of that. And Egwene counters such that we lead into the Oath Rod can unbind as well as bind. And Ramonda has a literal meltdown about it, so bad that Theodrin gets worried about her.
And this is where we get the whole sisters retiring into the kin. Why would you choose to die if you could go on to serve the White Tower as part of the kin? But also the argument that 3-0s are what make them Aes Sedai.
Yeah, the 3-0s make you Aes Sedai, but wouldn't it be better if your last years as Aes Sedai were not your last years as an asset to the tower?
Mm-hmm.
What if you had life after being Aes Sedai? To which Ramonda says, absolutely the fuck not. I will die as Aes Sedai.
Which, okay, but you'll be a pain in the ass for 300 years less than you would have been.
Yeah, I feel like once she calms down and thinks about it, gives it maybe a couple of years to just sort of simmer, and she feels age creeping up a little harder, she's probably going to reconsider. Because I honestly feel like part of her defensiveness must come from the fact that she's starting to feel like she's in her sunset years.
She should be.
And she's probably a little more defensive about that than a younger Aes Sedai would be.
Listen, you old-ass politicians need to fucking retire, all right?
Yes.
Before you die in office.
Yes. You should
Feinstein.
not die in office. That is an irresponsible use of your power.
And also a waste of your life. Retire, enjoy yourself. Do something with your last years besides work.
Seriously.
Fuck.
Seriously.
Retire into the kin.
Yeah, I think that that's going to become very attractive to all the Aes Sedai once they get over their initial shock. Like, no, yeah, most people are going to choose another few centuries of life. Yes, the legend. Supreme Judge, parentheses, mental bitches, should not be in life position. Yeah, supreme judgmental bitches should not be a life position. That's correct. I'll stand by that. We'll get that t-shirt.
So now Carian's died. Her warder, Lel?
Clew.
What?
Clew. It's Welsh. That's how they say it in the audiobooks, is Clew. Clew. It's a really weird sound, but it's
Llyw.
Yeah, that's a Welsh kind of spelling.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
I just remember I've trying so hard to wrap my head around those sounds, and I remember in the book, Kate Redding says "clew," and I'm like, how the hell do you know to say that? But it's because she's a smart person who knows how to read Welsh characters, apparently.
I'll take your word for that.
Sorry, Cymru.
So he is on the death rampage, and so I feel like, again, Ramonda's dropping information that she knows Myrelle has Lan as a warder.
Yeah, she's definitely hinting that she knows about all of that.
basically saying no one else has saved 2 warders who Aes Sedai have died, and Myrelle's even saved 3, was what she didn't say.
Yeah, that's the subtext. It's like, Myrelle's real good at that, you know, she's got 2. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
At least 2.
Yeah, yeah. And then they do a little, like, weird, like, oh, well, but you know, Myrelle, she marries all of her warders, and marriage is the only way you would sleep with someone. So, you know, maybe Hugh just isn't handsome enough to sleep with. And it's just like, there is more to this relationship than fucking, God, blues, yellows, being so judgy of greens.
Greens can be very odd. Well, take Elaine Tracan, for example. Actually, I never thought Elaine would choose green. I had her marked out for the blue. The girl has deft feel for the currents in politics. Wouldn't that make her gray?
Yes, absolutely. I had her marked out for the gray. That's how that line was supposed to go.
Yeah. Blue is just, no, that's meddling.
Yeah. It's being a spy. It's being
That's
a spy
cause.
master.
Yeah.
It's, being a CEO of a nonprofit. It's not doing politics.
I'm just shaking my head. Like, did Jordan just forget about the Grey Aja?
Completely.
Like, I swear to God.
He didn't like them.
Because, no.
He didn't like lawyers.
He's like, I fucking hate lawyers.
Yeah. He's like, there's a lawyer Aja, and I hate them.
They can go fuck themselves. The White Aja might be a bunch of nerds, but at least they're like non-problematic nerds who don't get in touch with their own emotions. But then he loves the yellow, loves the blue, loves the red.
Yeah, basically thinks the brown are the best.
Yeah, brown, clearly brown is best. Brownagon or the bestagon.
And they basically decide that this warder is going to get assigned to a young blue who never gets named, but who is apparently not interested in men that way. So we have another canonical whiff of potential non-straightness. And then we move on to discussing who is killing everyone in the camp.
Oh, apparently, by the way, Knife of Dreams, Myrelle ends up bonding him.
She does take on Clue.
Yep. He doesn't end up with the blue, unnamed blue.
Well, that's probably good, honestly. I don't feel like being given a recently Aes Sedai severed warder to a new Aes Sedai who didn't ask for the job specifically is a good idea.
So the next little bit is the meeting with Lelaine, right?
So this next little bit, we're talking about how if we do some weasel words and squinting, then we can take away Ashamon's free will because they aren't really people anyway.
It's not torture. It's enhanced interrogation. It's not compulsion. It's just modifying the warder bond. If you call it something else, it's something different. See how that works?
Yeah, they're not civilian casualties. They're guerrilla fighters.
Terrorists.
Yeah, agitators. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. It really is emblematic of the old guard Aes Sedai approach to men in general, whether they are warders, false dragons, or just men who can channel. Very on brand and disappointing at the same time. And I really like Egwene being like, that sounds exactly like compulsion, and I will point that out in no uncertain terms to anyone who suggests otherwise.
Not to mention it doesn't work on people who can channel. So, bleh.
Right, even if you
that.
decided to do this incredibly morally repugnant thing, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work, which they don't know, but still, we know.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, but it's not really the bond. It's not the same thing at all. And it is the same thing. You're using magic to pull 2 souls together into quantum entanglement. It's the same fucking thing.
Mm-hmm. Lelaine threatens to rectify her mistake of electing Egwene, which is like, brought you into this world. I can take you out of it. It's that sort of threat, which has got no teeth because she's got no power to unelect Egwene as Amyrlin's seat, or she would have done it already.
Yeah. And Egwene then takes the situation out of her hands. Like, oh, but you can't fire me if I quit.
Right.
I mean, not that she quits, but you know what I mean.
No. Right. Well, and while she's gone, which one, is it Lelaine or Ramonda gains power in her name? It wasn't one of them.
It's Lelaine, I think. Ramonda rests on her laurels, and Lelaine just keeps building up her power.
But it's all in Egwene's name. And Egwene's like, fine, if I come out on top, then I take it right back because it's in my name. If I don't, well, somebody's got to be Amyrlin.
Yeah, which is brutal, but true.
And I think it's hilarious that even at the end, after the last battle, she doesn't get to be Annalyn because they give it to
Yeah, no, I love
Nice
that.
try.
I love that.
Well, she doesn't survive the last battle, does she? Don't Lelaine and Ramonda both perish?
Ramonda definitely. Lelaine, I think, also. Yeah. Ramonda goes up in a fireball, as I recall. Yeah, Ramonda dies in a fireball when the Sharans show up. I think she dies in the initial assault.
She tries to channel. That's when Egwene's like, don't channel, and she channels, and boom. That's the end of her.
But I want to say that Lelaine and I think she has a warder. I think they go out later. Also against the Sharans, I think. Oh, no, Saman Nasai says that she's presumed to have survived the battle. Huh. Well, that sucks. Compulsing bitch. Glad she doesn't get the Amerlin seat.
Interesting that she's not a contender for the Amerlin seat.
Not when Cadsuin's still in the running. So yeah, Egwene neglects to eat yet another meal, which will go great for her when she gets dunked in an icy river in several hours.
I feel like it's almost good for her that she gets imprisoned because it's like she gets regular meals.
She's so bad about eating at this point. Yeah.
She has to be imprisoned for her own safety. I mean, to be told, all right, you need to eat on a regular basis. Here you go.
And get forced into it by the healing that she starts to have to endure all the time. So she's forced to eat, although she's burning the calories as fast as she can shovel them in. So
sure, right.
But she just really doesn't like eating. Between her focus and her stress, she's not an eater. Which, I also don't like eating when I'm stressed and focused. But your leaders need to not be hangry. You got to make them have food.
Well, Chase is trying, all right?
Chase is trying.
She's
so
doing
hard.
her best. Sometimes Chase-a-Tea's worked on her headaches. I'm wondering if that's actual an effect of the herbs or just that, Chase is not around when Halima's around, and so Halima's not around to give her headaches.
Yeah, I figured that it was that Halima, for whatever reason, just let up on the headaches for a few days and then brought them back. Maybe she even noticed Chesa doing the teas and thought it would be funny if she made it seem like the teas were working and then brought them back. Who knows? But yeah, I figure it's just a coincidence, and Chesa is in the best tradition of Wu medicine, just believing that either she didn't take the tea at the right time if it didn't work, or that it definitely worked. It was the tea if the headache goes away. Chesa is every Wu herbalist.
Unlike Nynaeve, who actually knows how the herbs work.
Right. And Egwene's sitting there thinking about Nicola and Lorene and Bode and herself, and there's this great rule about how, an Aes Sedai needs to learn to obey the rules before she can begin learning which could be broken and when. Which is, you should think about that about Lorene, but it's also true for Nicola and for herself, right? They all represent different points along that process, that spectrum of learning what the rules are and when to break them.
And basically, she makes the decision that she needs to be the one to do this Quendiar thing on the chain.
Yeah, because ordinarily the Amerlin is not supposed to risk herself except in times of war, and Egwene is in fact a far more effective weapon as a Quendiar maker than she is as a figurehead Amerlin being kept safe.
So they're at sunset. So this is the whole day, right? Because we started this chapter at sunrise, and we're ending it now at sunset as she goes to do this thing. And she basically grabs Bella and rides out, is where I am.
Yeah, she gets Swan to saddle Bella for her because Bella is not recognizable as the Amerlin's horse. So Egwene gets one last ride with Bella.
No. And Bella does great here, right?
Yeah, she runs. Her little legs are churning and her mane is blowing in the wind. And Bella, you're so great.
I love this line because when Egwene's acting like a bad rider, because she's trying to act like Suan, Bella's head twisted around to look at her. She knew who was on her back, and she knew Egwene rode better than this.
She's so smart.
It's just, she's like, what the fuck? Why are you riding like an idiot?
And Egwene, I also like the perspective we get of Egwene being like, wow, if you ride like Swan, you feel like you're about to fall off. That's part of Swan's problem, is she can't relax enough to actually learn how to ride a horse.
Totally.
Because really, I have ridden a horse a single digit number of times in my life, but seriously, you have to relax into it. You can't ride on top of the horse. You have to ride with the horse.
And I love Jordan's little bit that if you're on ships, you're not good with horses. Because horses are living things and ships are machines, and you can't do both, even though I'm sure there's lots of people who are good at both, right?
Oh, so many.
If nothing else, because they're both rich people sports.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
But I could see where, like, yeah, the rolling gait you get on the ship would make it weird to ride a horse, which with a very different kind of beat and movement than a ship.
Sure, but the human brain is plastic. We can contain multitudes.
I thought it was meat.
No, true.
It's plastic?
Yeah, it is actually
Okay.
a polymer.
Ah.
There's also some circuit boards in there and stuff. And some alien sparkle dust. A couple of mushrooms. So yeah, Egwene rides Bella in ways that previously Matt's chapters would indicate are not how you ride horses in stories. Apparently Bella can ride like a horse, can run like a horse in a story rather than a horse in real life.
I just assume they're not going that far, right? This is just from the sun setting to twilight, right? So it's really, what, like maybe an hour?
Yeah, and according to Jordan, you can't run for an hour.
You can run a horse for an hour. It might not be in great shape after
Yeah.
that.
And Bella's fine, clearly.
Well, I'm thinking that, like, Matt, he ran those horses all day in that rotation, right? From sun up to sundown. That's like a 12-hour shift as opposed to like a 1-hour race. And it's Bella. She'll be fine.
Yeah, and it's Bella. It's Bella. It's just Bella's so heroic, and Egwene gets one good ride with her, and it's like that time that they were in Teleran Riyadh, you know?
Or just running out of the two rivers.
Yeah.
Right? That's sort of what it always reminds me of. Remember when Rand makes Bella run faster? He takes away her tiredness.
Yeah, Bella can run better for the rest of her life because of that.
That's my headcanon, right? Is that's a permanent thing
Yeah,
he did to her.
yeah.
She's just she just doesn't get tired in the same way.
And she's a hero of the Horn. We know that too. So.
Well,
Yeah.
clearly, obviously.
So she pulls up on the group, and the men are like, "Oh, that's a pony," and Egwene's like, "She is absolutely not a pony. Take me to Bode." But it's really funny. Like, Bella is not a pony. We are going to stop and correct the record right now.
She is a horse, and a good one at that. The best horse.
And then Egwene tells Bode, "Sorry, you're actually not doing a super secret international super spy mission."
And Bode's like, "What? I was your age when you were sent out to do this kind of stuff." And Egwene's like, "Yeah, deal with it."
Basically. And also, like, literally the functionality of the mission is just not going to work with you, girl. Like, we need Egwene's speed for this wave.
That's really the truth, I think, is just that Bode wasn't good enough. Like, all the other reasons aside, the moral, all that kind of stuff, like...
Yeah, no, Egwene is not doing this to protect Matt's sister. She's not doing it to protect a child. She's not doing it to protect a novice. She's not doing it to protect a friend. She's doing it to protect the mission. And then, did you catch the bat?
Yeah, I think it's only a bat.
Really?
Both because she says it's only a bat, and apparently Robert Jordan was asked that question, and he has confirmed that it was just, in fact, a bat.
It's not a Shan scout?
No.
Well, I disagree with Jordan on that.
You want it to be a Shan scout?
Perrin got a Shan scout in the distance that he thought was a bat first. Well, no, he didn't actually. He thought it was a Shan scout. But, like, it makes more sense if sometimes it's a bat. It's better storytelling if it's not always a scout. But I really wanted it to be a scout. Religion, a bat herring instead of a red herring. It's a bird. It's a bat. It's a herring.
Yeah, and why doesn't she, like, make the connection with it could be Shan Chan, right? Like, you'd think she would be on the alert for Rockin'.
You would.
Considering she had the dreams, considering
You would.
she's very hyper-aware of Shan Chan from her abuse. Hard for me to assume that she's not just right that it's a bat.
All right.
Yeah, she, in a second, turns the whole chain from Iron to Quendiar.
But in the time it takes her to do that, the Aes Sedai up above who are on alert are able to pinpoint where she is and attack her boat.
And so they pull her out of the water, and we get this question, do you know who this is? We certainly got better than we bargained for tonight, right? So they weren't expecting Egwene, but they were expecting somebody.
Yeah. Someone was going to be worth capturing out here. They just didn't think it was going to be the rival Amerlin.
Right. They're like, oh, wow, this worked out better than we thought. But it is something that Nicola, I think, betrayed her, for sure. Like, gave them the warning, told them that somebody was going to be there.
Yeah, maybe they didn't even know what day. They just knew that one of these nights there's going to be an attack on the harbor, so just be out there. Because Nicola couldn't have known the day. But she could have known
Well, no.
soon, right? Sometime in the next week, surely. Then, yeah, I said that's time for them to be ready.
And then we see they get fork root tea into her mouth.
They give her first of many doses of fork root.
And we know Elida knows about that, right? Because of that yellow woman,
Rhonda
right?
Makira.
That whole Rhonda Makira. That one meeting has really come back to haunt us for a long time. That fork root tea.
Yeah. And it's such a good way to end the book. When I read this the first time and I was like, she's been captured by the tower. Finally. Not that I knew this was coming, but the stalemate was getting so stale.
Oh, so
I was
yeah.
so
Very,
excited
very
that
stale.
something that radical was going to come in and freshen everything up.
Right. And then she basically goes in and becomes the double agent, right? The inside agent that takes down the tower.
Double Amerlin.
Yep, double Amerlin.
She's an Amerlin for 2 towers at the same time.
It's like bi-weekly. Is it every other week or is it twice a week? Is she?
Yeah, totally.
She's a bi-Amerlin. Is she the Amerlin of 2 towers or is she twice the Amerlin of 1 tower?
Yes.
Yes.
And with that, epilogue.
Epilogue, an answer, and our symbol is the snake in the wheel, the Mickey Mouse symbol. Rand stared out of the window at the steady rain falling out of the gray sky, another storm down out of the spine of the world, the Dragon Wall. He thought spring must be coming soon. Spring always came eventually. Earlier here in Tyr than back home, it should be, though there seemed to be little sign of it. Lightning forked silver blue across the sky, and long moments passed before the peal of thunder. Distant lightning. The wounds on his side ached. Light the herons branded into his palms ached after all this time. Sometimes pain is all that lets you know you're alive, Lewis Theron whispered, but Rand ignored the voice in his head. The door creaked open behind him, and he looked over his shoulder at the man who came into the sitting room. Bashir was wearing a short gray silk coat, a rich, shimmering coat, and he had the baton of the Marshal General of Saldea, an ivory rod tipped with a golden wolf's head, tucked behind his belt next to his scabbard sword. His turned-down boots had been waxed till they shone. Rand tried not to let his relief show. They had been gone long enough. "The Shan are amiable," Bashir replied. "Crazy as loons, but amiable. They require a meeting with you in person, though. The Marshal General of Saldea isn't the Dragon Reborn." "With this lady Suroth?" Bashir shook his head. "Apparently a member of their royal family has arrived. Suroth wants you to meet someone called the Daughter of the 9 Moons." Thunder rolled again for distant lightning.
Boom. Robert Jordan mic drop.
And we know that ends up being Semirog disguised as the Daughter of the 9 Moons.
Yeah, Semirog is accepting the invitation and making the arrangements, and all of this is happening post Tuon vanishing.
And then just a lot of foreshadowing, the lightning, the thunder, the distant sky, right? Like, all of this is very much setting up the last battle is coming.
Yeah, shit's about to escalate. And then we get our anonymous fragment at the end.
Which appears to have been written by Rand.
Yeah, Rand wrote this.
"We rode on the winds of the rising storm. We ran to the sounds of the thunder. We danced among the lightning bolts and tore the world asunder." Anonymous fragment of a poem believed written near the end of the previous age, known by some as the Third Age, sometimes attributed to the Dragon Reborn. The end of the 10th book of the Wheel of Time. Woo! We did it. Oh, yeah.
Fireworks.
Oh, man.
I'm so glad we're done with that book. So proud of us for getting through.
I am too. That was such an impressive feat, I think, for us.
Yeah.
And so what's our plans, right? So season 2 of the show, the final episode drops like in 2 days. So we're probably going to sit down and record 8 episodes based around the 8 episodes of the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I figured we were going to do tangents next week.
Sure.
And then, after that, I thought we would, do 1 episode a week of the show, just a recording per an episode, and yeah, do that instead of a book.
We may take a short break after that, depending on how we're feeling before Knife of Dreams.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, it may be, well, we're talking October, November. It may, and then, so the show recordings will take us through November, at which point December hits and we've got Thanksgiving, my birthday, my anniversary, Christmas, all of that going down, and Christmas break. So we may not be back to book stuff until 2024.
Yeah. What would probably make sense is if we record as we can throughout December of the next book, but we don't release.
Until 2024.
And just get whatever kind of lead time we can doing that, and then start releasing again in 2024 with our regular schedule. I think that might be the way to do it.
That makes sense to me. So yeah, guys, wait. You've got a little bit of a wait before we're coming back to Knife of Dreams. Sorry about that, but the show must come out and be talked about.
Yes, we have to talk about it. I've been holding myself back from saying so many things because I just want to stay focused. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't care about the show and doesn't want to hear about it, sorry. We really want to talk about it, and so
we do.
We will be. And yeah, thank you all for sticking with us through the slog and through all of my bitching.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that we weren't always the most upbeat about this stuff. It doesn't mean we didn't love these books and we don't really enjoy reading them, but we cannot wait to get into Knife of Dreams and really talk about the action and the meat and potatoes of these books.
Yeah, this winter, Knife of Dreams.
And in a lot of ways, I would say we've reached a milestone, right? Because 10 out of the 15 books are done. We've done 2/3 of the books. If you count New Spring, right? We're really entering the third and final quarter. Take that as you will. Of these books. Right? Because I really do feel like the first third, kind of encapsulates 1 through 6. But right, we're talking about Lord of Chaos. Then you've got what I would call the slog extended, right? Which are the next sort of 4 to 5 books. And then you have the final battle.
Yeah, the last quartet.
And in a lot of ways, I think you can kind of separate Knife of Dreams from the last 3 books because it was the last book Jordan specifically wrote. And so it doesn't quite fit with the last 3 that Sanderson wrote. But I think, if you group those
it's
as
still
one.
the third act. Those 4 books are the third act in that classic structure.
Exactly. So we are into the third act in the classical structure. And that's just a totally different place to be.
Yeah, so everyone make sure to go tell your friends about us. Make sure that anyone who maybe fell off the train because we were getting sloggy and boring and just needs that little kick in the pants to come back, let them know that Knife of Dreams is coming up. Help us get a fresh wave of enthusiasm and downloads and eyes and ears as we go into this final section of the Lot Spoilers journey.
And once again, a huge thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. You guys are keeping us going. You got us through the slog,
Big
right?
time.
That
Hat
is amazing.
To all of you. Everyone who showed up in chat,
really, really
everyone who made art, everyone who donated. The slog is possible because getting through the slog is possible because of you. And
I think also a huge shout out to Ali and Gus for finally passing us.
Yes.
They have finished Crossroads of Twilight in one giant podcast, and they are on to Knife of Dreams. So I gotta salute anyone who's really on pace to make it to the end.
Yeah, that and Danny and Brett, I don't know where they're at, but they passed us a while ago. So.
They passed us a while ago.
So yeah,
I think we mentioned that then.
Cheers to all you podcasters out there who have yet to get to the slog. I believe in you. You will get through it because we did.
And congratulations, especially to those who have made it through the slog and are coming out the other end.
Yeah, very, very much so. I love this community. We're all so creative. We put up with this fucking slog together, and it makes it good.
All right. Good night. But yeah, so we just planned out my whole wedding. And if you wanted to be part of that, you need to donate on Patreon. And
wedding planning is a special tier now.
Definitely for live listeners only.
Thing. Yeah.
Otherwise, there's too much input. But yeah, that was fun. So I don't want to really talk about that anymore right now.
Right, just keep some stuff to yourself and the lives.
Oh, we got to make some decisions, right? Before everyone's just like, so when are you X, Y, and Z? When and what are you doing? And it's like, give us a month. We got to plan a few things out. We got to make some decisions.
Yeah. Gotta be surprises for the live stream of the wedding. just live stream the wedding. No big deal.
Sure, yeah. I think it's basically like throwing a con, is what I've realized. As I've started the planning phases of the wedding, the difference between planning a wedding and spoiler con are, at least the wedding's only one night. The similarities are similar?
Striking.
Okay, thank you, John Madden. The similarities are similar between the two of those things. Do you want to finish the slog?
Oh my god. Do
you wanna end this book with of course one of the girls getting kidnapped, because what else would Jordan do with his female protagonists except have them get kidnapped?
Yeah, I'm floating on a cloud because today we finally close the Crossroads of Twilight chapter of our lives and get to move on, never to return until the next reread. Because obviously I'm not skipping it because I'm not a monster.
Because I'm not a monster. Oh my god, I'm not gonna skip it. Never is starting Lord of Chaos. She just finished book 5, and she's like, it's so hard to get into Lord of Chaos because book 5 ending was so exciting and so actiony, and then it's just like them sitting around talking. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of those highs and lows in Wheel of Time.
Don't worry, Lord of Chaos ends on a bang. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. But then I was like, we may not have you read. I may summarize the 3 books. Just, I know where her patience is, and I think once we get to past book 7, I think that I'm gonna have to summarize the next 3 books until we get back to Knife of Dreams. And I don't think she's gonna miss much.
That's super, super fair. This week also, Gus and Allie dropped how they are going to do Crossroads of Twilight, which is one monster episode.
Oh, wow.
They just recorded chunks. They would read a chunk of chapters and then record some thoughts and read and record. And it ended up having to be 2 episodes because Spreaker can't handle files that large. But it's 10 hours. It is just a massive 10-hour blast of getting through, and I'm only partway through listening to it. I'm definitely savoring it, but it was I think in no small part because we were just like dying, and Gus was like,
no.
So yeah, they are past us now. They are officially on to reading Knife of Dreams while everyone listens to them process Crossroads in a mere 10 hours.
That's cheating. We suffered. They did not. They went right through it. I throw down the towel and challenge them to redo it properly.
Oh God. It's fine, you guys. You don't have to do it.
So yeah, like how are they just like skipping over big swaths of it, or just like talking about it in broad generalities?
Yeah, in chunks. I gave them the advice that they need to find the one thing that happens per section of POVs, because that was kind of what we had discovered, was like there's a cluster of POVs with one interesting thing that happens. So I told them to do that, and so I think they're kind of anchoring the segments in that way of being like, of this section of chapters, what are like the 2 or 3 salient things that happen?
Right. That makes sense.
But yeah, like I said, I'm only like 2 hours into it. Like, there's a lot to go.
All these POVs are definitely lead ups to the thing that happens. The thing happens, and then you get a POV switch.
Yeah, exactly.
But it takes 5 chapters for each one of those.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily less time than they would have spent on the book otherwise, but It is gratifying to be like, what slog? We snapped through that. 1 week later. Good to go.
Oh, Jesus. I'm jealous. I'll be honest. I'm jealous. But we made a commitment when I started this podcast. 1 episode per chapter, which admittedly is occasionally 2 episodes per chapter.
Yeah,
but...
it's gotten a little bendy now and then.
And occasionally we take 1 chapter and spread it over 30. But, it's, it's wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff, right?
Yeah. But us and Wheel Takes are both cresting over the crossroads of Twilight Hump and entering into Knife of Dreams at basically the same time, which is cool. And now I can talk to Allie with so much more confidence because I know that she's ahead of us in podcasting terms. So anything we've podcasted through, I'm allowed to talk to her about.
Wow, we can have her on.
We could. It would be a little challenging to make sure to not jump forward, but yeah, it would actually be possible.
It would be possible. I think we could do Knife of Dreams and just be like, oh, this is going to be a non-look forward podcast.
Yeah, we should find a slow retrospective chapter and have her on for that. To be like, yeah, Allie, you remember all this stuff, right?
And then we can have her off and do so this is the things she missed.
Yeah,
that would be kind of fun.
Lighting. Gaslighting, the ultimate gaslighting. Yeah. But yeah, I am ready to get one last kidnapping plot for our Supergirls out of the way.
Do you want to see what the Oath Rod can do? Because The Rock's going to show you what the Oath Rod can do.
Good God. I'm not editing that
out. Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?